Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. How do you go about, you got a young team this year, but you've had a lot of great players come through, and like you've been saying, kind of a common thread throughout this whole thing is meeting players where they are. How do you build confidence in players?
A lot of times at North Crowley, it's trying to not let them be overconfident. We do we do little things. I mean, just all the time to make sure that they understand that that success is earned; it's not inherited. Now, tradition can be inherited. There are lots of things that they get. Nike contracts can be inherited. All of that kind of stuff, but just constantly preaching to them and teaching them the history that we've had here. Talked about that media day on the first day of practice that we have. Well, I mean, all of my ex-players are invited to that. And I mean, as we're practicing up and down the floor and we get a second, I'm introducing them to our ex-players and when they played and what their successes were after they left here. I just want them to understand that the program is bigger than them. But by the same token, there are a lot of people that come in to North Crowley and I don't even know what it is. I mean, 250 something and 13 all time in this gym. I mean, just something just absurd like that. So sometimes people coming in here, they've already figured that they've got the loss before they ever walked in the doors. And so they can be a beneficiary of some of that past success as well.
Yeah, but that makes a lot of sense, though, that you have to constantly keep the right perspective, that they're never as after a loss or a bad day, they're never as bad as they think they are, but after a great moment, they're never as great as they think they are either.
Matt, I could not agree more. And I think my assistant coaches could have finished that sentence for you. I tell them all the time, can't ride the roller coaster of a season. You're never as good as you think. You're never as bad as you think. You can't get too high. You can't get too low. I know one of the questions from your podcast that you like to ask is how do you coach, kids the day after a game? Or
yeah, let's go right into that.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way to look at it. I think if you don't take the opportunity to prepare every single practice the way that you would prepare the practice the day after a loss, you're missing the boat. I don't think it should change a whole lot. Now, you may be tweaking some things that you didn't do well in the game before and making sure that they're implemented in your practice. But if your practice schedule is all of a sudden coming out and it's all detail oriented and everything else because you lost, I think that's one of those things that maybe you're sending the wrong message to your team. So again, we talked a little bit about differentiated and whatever your particular team needs. Sometimes they may need a pretty good butt chewing after a game. Other times they may need to be picked up just a little bit. And I think it's just recognizing where your team is and the different parts of the season as to what to give them the night after a game or the day after a game, and not letting them ride that roller coaster either, making sure they understand, hey, look, you're not quite as good as you think you are sometimes, that, it takes a very, very mature basketball team to win a game and still get better. Most basketball teams want to get better after a loss because now there's that sense of urgency to fix what you needed to fix. Well, it takes a mature basketball team and a mature coaching staff to understand, even after wins, to still have that sense of urgency to fix the things that you need to fix and to be as efficient as with your time in practices and, in meetings as you possibly can be.
What a great reminder about the message that we might be sending our teams if like you said, our preparation or our urgency changes after a win, obviously, but more importantly, after a loss. Like, we really have to go back and reevaluate what are the standards we're trying to set from the very beginning with our first meeting, the first day. If all of a sudden it's different now, or if a playoff game all of a sudden requires more energy, focus than the beginning games. We've missed the boat, and as coaches, we're not sending the right messages. So that's a great reminder, man.
We can definitely inadvertently send the wrong message to the kids, not even intending to.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's so natural and so easy to do as coaches. But again, if you're sending that wrong message, then you're just promoting that roller coaster that they could be on of we're a little bit better than we really are, or hey, we're not quite as good as we think we are. We want our kids even keel and understanding that it's a process and that we're going to continue to grow as a basketball team and as individual basketball players, hopefully on a daily basis.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.